Welcome to Podtendo's Final Fantasy VIII Retrospective. We're going to discuss why this game is so polarizing within the community. Listen as we deep dive through the thematical elements and talk about the plot. Enjoy. Hey guys, welcome to this Final Fantasy VIII Retrospective. I'm your co-host Mick, and I'm joined every episode by my lovely and talented co-host
Tyson.
And I'm getting right into it because I imagine I'm going to do some type of like sound intro theme like I did for our other retrospectives where I like discuss what we're doing. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I feel like we got to keep going on this Final Fantasy VII beat. It's a big journey, and we're starting to get into the rough parts of the road. So
Final Fantasy VII is a landmark achievement in video games, and we'll get into it later. And I'm sure we'll talk about Final Fantasy VII more because it's compared a lot to this game, right? As this game came up, Tyson was really excited to play an RPG, so I guess this is like the Oedipus of what exactly you're listening to right now. And he said, "Let's play Final Fantasy VIII. I've always wanted to play it. I hear it's good. Let's play it." He buys it. I buy a physical copy. It comes in the mail, and the day I get it, he sends me a text. He's like, "I hate this game. Let's just skip it. Go right to Final Fantasy IX." And I said, "No, kind sir. We will have to suffer through the atrocity of Final Fantasy VIII once in my life." And that's what brings us here today. It's going to be short. It's probably going to be about 3 parts, right? So this is going to be Disc 1. We'll do Disc 2 in the second one. And then I think we're going to combine Discs 3 and 4. Because I think Disc 4, there's not a lot going on. It's just kind of lots of endgame stuff, right? So we'll kind of skip that. 3 parts, that's what you're getting. I don't know what else we're looking at. I think maybe we have a plan. But as of right now, Final Fantasy VIII. There you go. There's my spiel. So how's that for you?
That's the background of this this episode for sure.
Yeah.
No, it was like, do we break the chronology of playing these games in order? It's like, we probably shouldn't.
Yeah. Final Fantasy IX I hold in high regard because it does kind of go back to the classic tale, and I'm actually interested to go back to it because I think it fits with the first one, right? Like, I think all the characters in Final Fantasy IX represent the original cast of characters from the original game, and I think that's really neat, and that's kind of cool, and I want to dive into that a little bit. But again, we have to get through this technical wonder, and I'll say that right off the start. This game is technically one of the greatest PlayStation 1 games ever created.
Yeah, and from a narrative perspective, it's super ambitious.
Oh, it gets bonkers. We're not doing development details in this episode. We'll get to them in the second one, and we'll talk about some of the plot twists that happen. Oh man, if you don't know, Tyson, you are in for a royal treat, because by the end of the second disc, I was in. I was like, this is the most insane, ludicrous story I've ever heard in my entire life, but I'm along for the ride. And I've like powered through the disc 3 in like 2 days, because I just can't. I'll be done all my school and done all my work and stuff, and like get everything and sit on the couch for 2 hours and just dive into this game, because it's like, it is bonkers.
That's fair. I've always heard that kind of about this game, and that's sometimes about even some of the bad Final Fantasy games. It's like eventually you hit that spot where it's like, no, this game gets fun and really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And I've just
I didn't say fun.
I've never. Okay, fair. Okay, I gotta taper my expectations. I was getting excited for a second because it's I've put on the grinding hat so I can get through this.
Nice. All right. So that's it. So we're ready. Let's get into this. Let's do it. So Final Fantasy VIII. It was developed by Square. It sold 8.6 million physical copies. That's a lot. It was released February 11th, 1999. How long to beat has this game at 40 hours? You can use the cheats to make this way shorter if you're playing the remastered edition, which I recommend. Price at release was $59.99. If you factor in inflation, that'd be $90.42 today. On eBay, you can find a copy for about $25-ish to $2,800 for a graded copy. Don't waste your money on it. eShop, you can find it for $5 for the PS1 original, or about $25 for the remaster. I think I paid $50 for Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy VIII hard copies, but I've seen them as low as like $10. So.
Yeah. I've not shied away from digital because it's kind of saved my bacon when I've had to dump consoles and get a new one and just port everything over. So I think I grabbed this when it was on sale for like 75% off or 50% off. So it was like $10 or like whatever it was.
Very reasonable.
Yeah. And I mean, it's the HD remake makes this game so much easier on the eyes.
I once bought because I don't have it. I lost. I think we sold our PlayStation original. It broke, so the disc broke. I like jerry rigged it and sold it to some kid that was like moving out of town or something. I don't know. I shizzled the heck out of this guy because it's like broken PlayStation. So we lost our PlayStation.
That's fair. Well,
but I was like,
but I mean, you made a profit on which was basically junk. I know sometimes like the fix was turn it upside down. I never remember us trying that as kids. Like maybe that could have fixed it, but
oh no, but like the disc, like the thing you clipped the disc in was broken.
Oh, I got you.
Like when I was pulling it out, like a chip broke. So you'd have to like buy a new piece and put it in there. Anyways, so this guy has this broken PlayStation, which I'm sure he just threw in the garbage. Anyways, and I never had one. So I went one day and found an ad on Kijiji, which is like kind of like a Facebook, like a swap and buy kind of thing, and went to buy it at this house. And these people are like, oh, we didn't have any games with it. Or maybe they had a game and they threw me the game. Like, oh, we just threw a copy of Final Fantasy VIII yesterday. And I was like, you did what? And they're like, yeah, it only had 3 of the 4 discs. I'm like, I would have taken that. Like, I would have bought, like, that's worth like $20 in my opinion. So I think I own a copy on a shelf because we owned a copy at some point. It was bought in our household, but never really played it. Just wasn't into it. I remember playing the demo a bunch, but maybe we'll get into first memories. I'm getting ahead of ourselves. Way ahead of ourselves. I just want to tell that story. Those people that threw a copy of a game away because they only had 3 of the 4 discs.
Yeah, that seems crazy to me. It's like, is that original casing?
It was original casing, yeah. Like
heartbreaking.
Very, very much so. So where to play? You can play this as a PS1 original disc, unless of course you throw one of them away, and then a man in Kijiji will get mad at you. On the PS3, Vita, PS4, on the PSN, I believe, or on the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch for the remastered. So before we get into this game, we have to put our stamp of approval, our Podtendo trademark on this bad boy. We have to go to our Wayback Machine, travel back in time, and we want to know what life was like, because you were alive, I was alive. What the heck was going on in February 11th of 1999? Aren't you curious?
I'm very curious.
All right, so we're going to start out by asking Tyson, what's our favorite show? So could it be The Simpsons, Season 1, Episode 13, Homer to the Max? So after Homer becomes a bumbling TV character, or Homer Simpson, Homer Simpson changes his name to Max Power and enters an elite social group in Springfield. Or Beast Machines, Transformers, Season 1, Episode 1, The Reformatting? The Maximals awaken on their homeworld of Cybertron with no memory of how they got there, unable to transform, so they are hunted down with mindless vehicle drones. Oh, scary.
I'm absolutely fascinated because it's like, man, season 10, that's like right when Simpsons dropped off. Very weird that Final Fantasy VIII came out the same year.
So you're saying there's a corollary?
Definitely. Definitely. So, wonder if other things match up with being re-releases of previous joyful series from our like past childhood. So,
you have to make a choice, Tyson. Would you rather watch Beast Machines or Simpsons? I realize you use this as a joke to say how much you hate Final Fantasy VIII, but
I know, but it's also like Simpsons Season 10 is a bad reimagining, and Beast Machines is the bad remake of the original Beast Wars. And then there's some other things coming up in the list in the future, but I don't know. I this is tough. If I have to choose one, I'll probably choose Beast Machines because it's because I hate the Max Power episode. Season 10 of The Simpsons is really painful to get through. So at least Beast Machines, I'm still delusional as to how bad it gets. When Rhino or Rhinox becomes the bad guy. At least episode 1, you're like, oh, it could be good. I love Beast Wars.
I do have a fondness in my heart for Beast Wars. I tried watching the Transformers Meets the Beast Wars or something TV show. It sucked. Like, there's obviously things I need to watch before I watch the series because it kind of just throws you in the middle of nowhere. And like Galvatron's there, and I was like, what the heck's going on? Anyways, good job, Beast Machines. Cool. All right.
Yep.
Transform.
But it's like a side tangent about Transformers. It's man, they really don't like that franchise. Like, I swear they just milk that thing for money, and then they're just like, don't think about it, just produce stuff.
Like just in
And
terms of all Transformers, it
yeah,
sucks. So we have a
yeah,
like my nephew is 4. I forget how old he is. Anyways, loves Transformers. We
yeah.
took him Christmas shopping at Toys R Us. So instead of buying him a present, we just took him to Toys R Us, and he found this like little 3-pack of Bumblebees, and he's like a Jeep and a car, and that's all he did. So we went to stay at his house, and I had never been to his house before, and all he did was play with his Transformers. It was literally just like, and they're just like click buttons, like they're like a car and then a robot, car and then a robot, and that's all he did. So there is something about children and toys and Transformers, I think, that lives on, but
Yeah, I just mean there's not a lot of depth there. Like, don't
oh
get me
no,
wrong. When we were kids, we loved the Transformers and
I
just playing. Like the toys
yeah.
is like there's something about the characters and the actual like function of like transforming the toys. It's very fun, and I could see how like kids would just be fascinated with it because it's very like it's like the ultimate fidget spinner in a way where it's like you can just kind of like build them, play with them, switch them, and then like it's very like cathartic, but it's also like I just wish the
Oh, I don't think
I wish
Transformers was
Hasbro.
a deep show. And then in
Yeah.
1986, they made a little movie called Transformers the Movie. And it destroyed a generation of children because, like, watching it as an adult, it's a challenging narrative. So these children were like, Optimus Prime died in the first 5 minutes. So I think at that point, they were like, you know what's going to hurt our sales? Challenging narratives for children. So,
That's fair.
yeah.
They got their hands slammed in the door and they were like, never again.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So, what else is going on in this world outside of the failed Beast machines? TV, we could see The Sopranos, Third Watch, Cold Case Files, Angel, Roswell, Freaks and Greeks, and Farscape. All right. How about top cartoons? We had Batman Beyond, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Dilbert, Family Guy, Futurama, Spider-Man Unlimited, and Redwall.
I just want to point out that a few of these things were releases or reimaginings or sequels, spiritual sequels of things that we loved before, like Spider-Man the Animated Series and Spider-Man Unlimited. It's like, no, just not comparable. Buffy the Vampire Hunter and Angel, just like,
Huh.
no.
That's
And
weird.
then Batman the Animated Series and Batman Beyond. And you're like, see, that one's okay, but I also feel like it's just not as good as Batman the Animated Series. So, and you also have Futurama and The Simpsons. So
Yeah.
I just, there's lots of those things where it's just like, what's going on with all the re-releases this year?
Maybe in the movies, maybe we'll see new movies. So we got this week we could see Blast from the Past, not really, Message in a Bottle, and My Favorite Martian. Right. Still in the theaters, you could see Payback, She's All That, Varsity Blues, 6 Cents. All right, all right. And if you waited a few weeks, you could see October Skies, Office Space, Analyze This, and Baby Genius.
Kind of a mixed bag of movies.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Also apologize. My dog is trying to play fetch, so he's bringing me a ball. So if you hear a bouncing ball, it's his little fault. Yeah. Any points there? Not really. Any movies
Not
that stand
really.
out?
Like,
Okay,
I
all
mean,
right. I remember
October
Sixth
Sky, the
Sense.
one with what was it? The kid trying to build a rocket.
Maybe. What's the one with Tom Cruise? And it's like a weird dream. November Sky.
That's
Something.
Vanilla.
Vanilla Sky. Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, how about top video games that came out? So we are like, what games came out? WCW Nitro, Mario Party, Army Men 3D, Beatles, Adventures Racing, and Star Wars X-Wing Alliance.
Some not bad video games. I am debating making Mick play Army Men 3D or Sarge's Heroes for the N64 at least at one point.
Cool.
So
Well, there's a couple games where I'm like, yeah, I definitely want to play that. So I'm in. I'm. That sounds great. All right, so Army Men. So top 3 songs. We'll finish with that, and then we'll get out of this. 14 minutes? How are we spending 14 minutes on this part of the segment? Wow. All right. Well, anyways, so number 3 song. Oh yeah, we talked about Beast Wars for like in Transformers for 5 minutes. All right. So the number 3 song this week, according to the Billboard charts, was "I'm Your Angel" by R. Kelly.
I
So there.
kind of remember that song.
Yeah,
Kind
all
of
right.
remember it.
All right. Have you ever? So the number 2 song, as I say it out loud while I'm typing, because that's a good habit to be in. Have you ever by Brandy is the number 2 song. Right? I feel like we've been in this time before.
Yeah. But I also don't know
Yeah.
how or where.
If you looked at the video games, look at the video games in like January '99 or like March, and I bet you'd be like, oh, that's why, because we played this game. So it's probably more like a March game that came out. Maybe I'll pull up the list at some point when we're talking like first memories. But number 1 song is Baby One More Time by Britney Spears. So if you were alive at this point, you definitely remember this time because it was everywhere. It was Britney Spears. Time.
I think I still remember listening to this cassette tape in my R2D2 cassette player.
That's how you know Tyson was a cool guy, because that's what he had. So
yeah, well, there's a little part about my history, everybody. So
yeah, there you go. I mean, that was kind of cool. R2, like everyone was definitely jealous of the R2D2 like cassette player. So
yeah, and then they listened to what I was listening to, and everybody's like, "What?" The fuck?
What the?
It's like, shh, I just listened to this on repeat.
What the fuck?
I only had one
all
cassette, kids. Maybe a Jurassic Park.
Did I not say that? That's weird. So Pokemon Snap came out. Oh, you know what? If I would have just read the gosh darn notes, because I definitely looked that up. Anyway, so that's a cultural landscape. Let's talk about our first memories of this experience. So we had it for PS1 at one point, but I just didn't play it. I remember there was like Final Fantasy VII hype wrapped up. There was a demo disc that had the kind of one of the sections we're going to talk about here. Tyson called it the demos part. I remember playing through that a couple times. It was difficult, right? It was difficult. It was challenging. It was...
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was. It seemed different. It was like new updated graphics. You're like, wow, awesome, cool. I just didn't play it. So we were probably playing Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Stadium, Pokemon Pinball, Jet Force Gemini, right? And I actually don't even think it was till Christmas of '99 that we got our first PlayStation and a copy of Final Fantasy VII, right? So maybe at some point at 2000, you went and purchased this game. And then I think because Final Fantasy IX came out in July of... Look at this research I did. Holy smokes. Came out in July of 2000. Our attention might have like went to the new game, right? And I bet you I was more interested to play Final Fantasy IX. And I remember like being into that game like pretty early on in the release.
Oh, yeah. I remember like when it came out, it was like...
We rented it. We took turns playing through it. Yeah, like it was...
I remember like trying to play as far as I could so I could get the dude with red hair on my team, and he's the last member you recruit. So I was not getting there anytime soon, but it was a lot of fun. Like I remember this area kind of vividly because I feel like another game I must have picked up around the time was Parasite Eve. And for some reason, Final Fantasy VIII and Parasite Eve, maybe they were on the same demo disc, are just like super overlapped in my memory. Like they both have the similar style, and they both have like chicks that are the villain, and they're kind of like super powered. So it's almost kind of like this weird blur. I also feel like the movie The Cell came out around this time. So
oh yeah, she looks just like the bad guy in this, like the bad guy in Parasite Eve.
Yeah. So I remember when I first started playing Final Fantasy VIII, I just kind of I'd play like up to a certain point, and then I would just kind of feel lost and not knowing where to go or what to do, and not having proper walkthroughs or your best access was game facts and just reading a huge long text document. And I was just never going to do that as a kid. So I was like, well, I'm never going to read this. So, or if I do, I'm going to start at the very, very top and end up reading my way through up until like where I'm at. And then like I'll play for a little bit and know where I'm at neat in the document. And then eventually you pick it up later on and you're like, I don't even know where I am in the document or where I am in the walkthrough. Like, and I didn't know Control F was a thing. I was a dumb kid, so...
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, for myself, very similar. And, like, I think the timeline I laid out makes sense. But, yeah, you're right. The bad guy in this, the bad guy in Parasite Eve, that weird flowing Jennifer Lopez, I think, is in the cell.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no, this is Tyson's hitting a lot of good points. I know I got really big into Final Fantasy IX in 2002 because there was an album that was released, and like in my mind they're synonymous. So I actually almost need to like bust out a CD player and listen to a certain CD. It was like a wrestling CD, but it was all like a bunch of rock anthems. And I remember sitting there, we had this. Anyways, that's a Final Fantasy IX podcast topic. Let's just keep moving on. So there, that's it. So we kind of know this is our first, I would say, official playthrough. I've never played through this game before. Let's get into it. So 20 minutes later.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground and maybe a few side tangents,
yeah.
but
that's it. That we've done our side tangent. You know now about us. You know about a pop culture landscape. Really, I think the rest of this should be about this game. So there you go. So if you got thus far, when parts 2 and 3 come out, we're definitely doing more of the game. So look at the story first. So the story starts out. So Squall and Cypher, 2 characters, they spar with each other while training outside Balaam Garden. Meanwhile, the Republic of Galbadia invades the Dulet Dukedom, forcing Dulet to hire Seed. Confused? I am.
yeah. You kind of just get dropped into this world, and you're like, here's a cutscene with lots of flashy visuals and cool characters with fancy poses.
So do you want a spoiler?
Sure.
All right, so spoiler. I'm not nothing major. The Guardian forces. So the fact that our team and our characters we meet in this can bring in these Guardian forces, which are kind of like the summons of this world, affects our characters' memories. So they're embedded with his powers, and they can bring in use these Guardian forces to make themselves more powerful. But it affects their memories, and I think that's interesting to note as the story progresses, as well as why are we just dropped into the middle of this story? It's for that reason.
Oh, makes sense.
Yeah. All right.
Still vague for vague's sake, but
Yeah, all right, fair enough. So we're on to the level notes. Now we've started. We wake up in the infirmary because we got our eye cut. We make our way to class to prep for our final exam. However, before we can complete it, we have to go to the fire cavern while being supervised by our instructor, Quittis. While there, you get a tutorial on how the junction systems work, select how much time you'd like, and head in for a fight. The boss here is Ifrit. He attacks you with fire spells, you attack back and heal, and he joins you. All right.
yeah. And you get to hang out with Keistis, who's your instructor, and she's like your first character added to your party. She's interesting. Should we go through the characters as they get introduced?
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense, right? So Squall's kind of a stoic, emo, fur coat wearing guy with a gun blade.
Yeah. He's our main character, but he's too cool for school.
Pretty much, yeah. Quittis is as we said, is our instructor, but she's younger. I think she reveals that she's only been an instructor for a year or two. Not great at her job. She was a really good student, got promoted too quickly, and now is struggling. So,
yeah. She's like, imagine a year older than like essentially Squall. So
yeah, so it's not weird when she's like, maybe I like you, and he's like, no,
yeah.
Who could ever like me? I'm too broken. Huh.
Don't ask me. I'm too busy being mopey over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, Squall. So considering the importance of the Guardian Force, or GFs, the playing character development in this game, it makes sense to begin with collecting your third Guardian Force and just learning how the junction system works. So it's a new system. You equip it. That's how you increase your attack and your health and what abilities your characters have, because they're actually just nothing. Like if you just went into a battle without any junctions, you would have attack and that's it.
Yeah, which is an interesting idea on paper.
Yeah.
But it's it's
broken.
It's terrible.
It's absolutely broken. You have no magic. The only way the abilities you get are Guardian Force. You can summon them, magic or items, as well as something called draw. What draw happens is when a battle occurs, you can draw magic spells from enemies, and that's how you get magic.
Yeah, but it's so badly implemented. Like it's a random number generator
based on how good your magic
stats are. Yeah. So like when you're drawing, let's say cures, because you want to heal your person, you have to find a monster that has cure, and you draw, and in your turn, I'll like draw some cure spells from them. but you want to max out like abilities using those. Ugh. It's it just sticks with magic and like that stuff for a second. It's like you draw all your magic spells that way just through different random encounters, but it also has like you can fail at it, and certain character or certain enemies have less chances of providing it to you, so sometimes you can just draw one or it fails, so you can sit up there, and if you want to just grind on one enemy, it can just take
a while,
forever.
Yeah, it's flawed. You equip it. You know what? I think I do go through controls in our next set of notes, so we'll leave it there. Everyone is kind of familiar. It's a flawed system. We can talk more about the nitty gritty, I think, in the next episode. Like, I have a whole section for it. We have lots of content to go, so we'll leave it there. It's a flawed system. Doesn't work out 100%, right? So, but we've got our exam. We're headed to our final exam. We're ready to go. So our seed field exam. So seed is kind of there's gardens. They send out seeds. So it's SEE big D. I don't know what it stands for. I think literally because they're gardens. We now have to change into our uniform and meet up with our squad leader, Cypher, and meet one of our classmates and long-term party member, Zell. We drive by car to a port city, then board a boat to a battleground. We make our way through the war-torn streets, meet a dog at a rendezvous point. Cypher gets bored and makes his way to the communication tower and enters without Squall and Zell. A girl shows up, Selfie, and the three of us make it inside. We fight Biggs and Wedge, stop the communication tower before we head back to the beach. However, Biggs releases a boss for us to fight, the Spider Boss. You have to attack him until he becomes disabled, then you can run from battle. He will continue to chase you down the path to the beach where a cutscene shows Quittis blowing him up with a cannon.
Yeah, I think this is the part of the game that everybody's kind of most familiar with.
You literally called it the demo mission.
Yeah. Because it's the game in the demo disc.
Yeah.
Don't know what demo disc I'm referring to, but I know it's a demo disc that had this game on it.
I don't know either. It was like a friend had it, and PlayStation was weird because they used to just release demo discs with magazines. So finding different magazines would get you different demo discs, or you could have like PlayStation subscriptions where they'd send you. Early PlayStation was a weird creature. Right? So this is one of the side effects was the demo disc function. Outside of that, I think this game could have been really fun if there was more missions like this, right? So there's different things. If you save the dog, you get better points. If you do it in a certain amount of time, we didn't really talk about that in the first one, but you get a better ranking if you let the clock run out. So like when you're fighting Ifrit, if you just let your time expire and then leave the cave, you get a better ranking than if there was like 10 minutes left. Or during this, like there's weird little sequences and stuff like that. So it's fascinating. As well as there's a card system in this game. And you can collect a bunch of cards, spawn special items, give a character special abilities, and like refine a bunch of cards for magic. So you can like be super overpowered. And I think there's actually a way of destroying the spider boss like way early on. Like every time he fights you can just hit like Thunderaga at it. And the game's like, there's no way they're strong enough. So then you it's fast. Weird. What a weird system, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of strange mechanics because essentially there's a really heavy narrative where lots of characters talking and kind of like it scene to scene, just essentially dialogue. And then there's the battle mechanics is really just grindy collectathons, but it's also like really has like with the card junctioning you can power up yourself. This
is tough to like just talk about this flawed game.
Yeah, well that's why I was like the mechanics are like funky, and that's why it's probably like best if you're right, if we just like leave that for like the control part. We just stick to like what happens in the story.
Like you have to talk about it, right? Because it's just weird. Anyways, let's focus on the story. We'll get through that, and then we can worry about that on the next one. All right, so inauguration. So we graduate and are the Gunblade Specialist. We receive a rank based on how well we did. We change our clothes again and attend a ball. We meet a cute brunette girl before retreating to a secret location with Quittis. All right.
Yes, where it's kind of an inappropriate scene.
Yeah.
I mean, they kind of like, oh, it's fine, she's 18, but it's like, if she's still kind of like an older person talking to a younger person that she was literally just a mentor over, and be like,
yeah,
I want to open up to you and just share my feelings to you about why I'm going to lose my job and stuff. It's like, and he's like, I don't care.
Yes. Yeah.
And like the good part is they kind of just leave it at that. They don't like pursue anything from there. But it's like, this is a scene that doesn't need to be here.
I'm not a fan of Squall up to this point. I think he's problematic, and he's just not an idealistic main character. But however, I do think Quittis and Renoa are both strong female characters. Like, up until this point, they have personalities. We kind of learn about their hopes and their dreams, their failures, right? Like, Renoa, when he comes up to Squall, she does this, like, cute interaction, and she's not just the pretty face, right? Like, she has a real personality. So I think that's really neat. But Squall, you're not redeeming. And I'll be honest with you, Squall never redeems himself. At no point am I sitting here being like, yes, Squall, you don't suck.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I think that's kind of it for a lot of the characters, because I'm having a hard time connecting with any of the characters so far. Like
Selfie, remember when you were like, we should talk about when these guys show up? Zell, who's this like martial arts guy, and Selfie, who has nunchucks. They're just there.
That's their characters.
So if you're playing the remastered editions, Quittis is sweet because she has blue magic, and she has something called laser eyes. So just her base attack, and there's something you can press, like, where you just always have full health and full limit breaks. She's really useful because she does like 400 damage with her laser eyes, which is awesome, right? And everyone else's limit breaks kind of suck. Like Squall's, you have to like press the trigger buttons a bunch, and Renoa's is all right, but like Selfies, I never use Selfies. I just have her regular attack or draw, and you have to do a bunch of button combinations for Zell. Again, we just talked about how crappy this game mechanics are. Oh my god!
Because the problem is, that's the entire game. The entire game is different game mechanics. Every sequence coming up will have its own little game mechanic.
Did you fight the Tyrannosaurus Rex?
I did not fight Tyrannosaurus Rex.
Okay, so when you're going to the special meeting location, a big T-Rex in the training center attacks you, and if you beat him, you get a T-Rex card. So
nice. I've absolutely just avoided Triple Triad, and I'm really hoping it doesn't come to bite me in the butt. It might come back to bite me in the butt.
Unless you want like the best weapons, but if you're just going to cheat and use like the modifications, it's fine.
Good.
Yeah. However, I did spend lots of time, and I have most of the characters. Like I have the Quittis and the Zell and the Cypher and I don't know if I have a Squall card.
Do you have an Antonio, or what the heck the dog's name is?
I don't have Antonio. I don't know how to get that. I don't have Renoa either, because I kept my Ifrit. You have to like lose the Ifrit card, and then you get to re-challenge a guy and get a Renoa card.
Yeah, we can kind of talk about that later, because it's weird that you have to literally lose a card to this kid's mom. And then you have to play the kid who's much worse at the game and just get the cards that way. It's like, you have to like play, like this game's encouraging bad behavior. You should not gamble with children and take advantage of their less skill so you can get like, this is a bad mechanic.
Pokemon cards were popular, so they made Pokemon cards in the game. Why not? We learned about it. We should have done development details. Anyways, let's just keep moving on with this great story. Like, there's like 4 more points and then we're done. So, first mission. So we're in a new room. We change again. We get to meet up with Zella and Selfie near the front gate and head out on our mission. We go to the port city. We board a train. We pass out. Dream about some guy named Laguna, which is awesome. Well, why not play as different characters? Visit the Owls, which are a group of rebels, and officially meet the cute brunette girl and learn about a train heist. We have to play a train minigame, fight a fake president before stopping in Balam.
Yeah, I actually, so this is kind of like the part of the game where I had like a I'm interested kind of moment, like the Laguna dream sequence.
Okay.
It's like, I've never heard of this. I don't know what's going on with this. This is intriguing to me. At least it's something different. At least these may be characters that I might be able to like. I don't care if they're made up and they don't even matter. These are characters I'm enjoying running around with.
Well, they're real characters, if that makes you feel better.
Okay, well, cool. I'm excited.
I am so sad that we did not record this, and I stopped at disc 1 and waited for you, because I know so much more, and I just want, like, this episode we don't like the game. Next episode, I bet you we like the game a little bit more. So let's just do that. So, all right.
That's fair.
Like Tyson said, new game mechanics. We play a random mini game about trains. It affects your ranking and how much cash flow you have. Then there's a weird moment where like your contract is brought up, and it kind of makes it seem like the seeds are really shady, but it's like it doesn't come up again, and I'm like, that's weird.
Yeah. It's essentially just kind of like gives you a hint that Sid is kind of not on your side.
Yeah.
Because he essentially just writes a contract that like these people are yours. Do whatever you want with them. They're not replaceable. So like feel free to like they can't renege on the contract. Just use them for whatever you want. It's like this is a really shady deal for us. It's like so it kind of like shows that Sid's maybe not a good guy in this one.
Maybe, but now we're on wherever we're at. Blam. So we have to find our way to get to a TV station to stop the president. We find a side street, meet some owl rebels, fight some guards in front of a pub, talk to a drunk, and you have to like give him a drink or something. I don't know. I think I got a card one time I played, and we climb up some stairs to see the president on TV introducing his new special friend, the definitely evil sorceress. I think her name's like Adia. Quintus and Cypher jump in and hold the president hostage. That's a good look. We run towards them. Cypher gets brainwashed by the sorceress, and they both disappear. The president escapes, and the 5 of us have to hide in the rebels' house.
Yeah. Kind of first hint at who's maybe the big bad of this story, because up until this point, we're kind of just like fighting what feels like just different army groups. And it's like there's not like a through line like who's going to be the antagonist. Like we kind of just knew Cypher was a jerk because it cut us across the face. But so it's interesting to see that this sorceress is at least a big enough threat. So,
and I agree. I said, hey, you know what? Not the worst introduction to an antagonist. We now know who we might be fighting. It's cool. You know, it's not Sephiroth. It's not the Empire from Final Fantasy 3. It's not the Red Wing army, you know, the King or Kane or something from Final Fantasy 4, but it's a person, and that's pretty exciting, because up to this point I was like, what the frick are we doing? I kind of figured Cypher was always bad, so I was like, oh, whatever. I would have increased the sense of urgency. Why aren't there not guards after the president was attacked? These are all good points I raise. Alright, so now the Galbadian Gardens. So when things settle down, we head to the train station, get off, move through a forest, dream about Laguna again. Once we wake up, we make our way to the garden, get the okay to proceed on our mission, meet a sniper guy named Irvin. Irvin, I hate you so much. We head to another city and are told to visit the tomb of a lost king to prove our merits.
Yeah, Irvine just kind of gets tagged along to our group because we need to get an eye. Like the people at the Galbadia Garden who seem really shady,
right?
Are super like this place is not cool. Like this place seems very militaristic, whereas it's like our garden that we come from was pretty more like a school. This place is very much more like a militaristic area with a school element, and it's like here, the sharpshooter. He's now going to join your team. And he's this weird cowboy dude.
Hey, we talked about him. Great. Awesome.
Yep.
So the other weird thing about this is because the characters are just blank slates, all they can do is attack. They have no special abilities. You can kind of train them and make them what you want. So if you want like a white mage, you can give certain guardian forces to them, injunction to them, and like give them white spells so that they have more powerful magic, or one guy might be better at attacking, or you know what I mean? Like you can play around with all that stuff.
It honestly just becomes more of a game of what combination of guardian forces or summons just work good together, and then you just switch them between like your 3 characters and then another party of 3. Just junctioning exchanges. That's what this game is.
Literally, just that's all you. That once you learn that, so you have your 3 characters. For some reason, you have to play as the other characters, and you're like, this sucks. There are certain moments where you can take the Guardian Forces and move it on there. Just keep your Guardian Forces on the characters you're playing as, so they get experience and learn new skills. That's kind of it, you know?
Yep. It's more important than armor or weapons, because there is no armor in this game. The weapons are useless. The spells don't matter, and the Guardian Forces are the only thing that's important, and most of them are missable.
At this point, I don't even know if we're the good guys. Like, I don't know if the seeds, and I still don't know, to be honest with you. Are they good or evil? Doesn't really come up again. It just kind of stops being the thing we talk about. I think it hurts the overall narrative. You know, are we just guns for hire? Are we heroes? No ideas. But brothers. So at the tomb, we have to find a map, to find a Minotaur, fight him, let some water in, make some notes of a fallen CD number before fighting the brother Minotaurs in the middle of the maze. We get a new junction and can head back to Renoa's house.
Yeah. This maze of a tomb works quite well, actually, because it's kind of confusing, and a lot of it looks the same. And even when I knew where I was kind of going, if you run, let's say you run into a hallway and then you run back into it, you have to remember that the hallway now has been flipped. So now instead of going like left, you now need to go right. It's like it's very well done. So it's like a lot of the time I would just like kind of have to like muscle memory work my way to the edge and be like, okay, reset. Where the heck am I going?
Yeah. So you always work through a series of crosses for the most part. There's a front, middle, or a front, right, and a left, right, or back. And you always enter from the bottom of the screen, work your way up. So like Tyson was saying, if you work your way up and then instantly come back down, the image is then flipped. Again, technically, it's nice that they have upwards of 4 combinations for every single room. If you have a picture of the map beside you, it makes it super easy. So
yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's well done.
Seems like a very RPG mission, though, right? You're just like, to prove your worthiness, go to this tomb and collect this number.
Click these switches and kill this thing.
Yeah.
And if you kill the thing, you get the magical thingamabob.
Sure, why not? All right, so the final section, Assassinations. Tell the guard the code. There we go. We tell the guard, meet Renoa's father. He lays out a plan. It involves lowering a gate and shooting the sorceress. Ooh. I keep calling her sorcerer. That's too bad. Squall and Irvin head to the palace to save Renoa, who in the middle of the night, sneaks out and gets captured. And gets ready to make a shot. Meanwhile, Quittis, Zell, and Selfie escape from the mansion, solve a sewer puzzle, and get ready to lower the gate. The gate is lowered. The shot is fired, but blocked, and Squall heads towards the sorceress to stop her. After the battle with Cypher and the sorceress, Squall is stabbed with a piece of ice and falls off the parade float. Because she's on a parade float, I guess. End of Disc 1.
Yeah, so when the sorceress killed the president, it was essentially part of a big celebration of her, like, I'm taking over, and started to parade for herself. But we knew that was going to be the plan, so we set up a lock so we could stop the parade, so that Irvine could shoot her.
Yes.
But Irvine hesitates because he's afraid.
Yes.
And then all heck breaks loose, and we battle the sorceress, and she's not super strong, but then she just ice blasts Squall, who really cares, because it's just Squall.
Yeah, if Squall died, I've been like, oh no.
Oh yeah, maybe we get somebody else. What is Laguna a character that I could possibly play more as? But it's very the story is way all over the place. It ends up being oh hey, there's this cute little mission, and we're gonna lay it out, and we know how the parade's gonna go. But it's we also just know that just very very randomly.
But I think that's a really cool part of that, right? That Renoa's father literally walks you out. Okay, this is what's gonna happen. You have to get to this gate, and 3 of you are gonna have to drop this gate, right? And then somebody else is gonna have to go here and shoot her, and you have to walk around the little city. And he shows you all the spots. And then it's filled with people, and there's excitements, and there's cutscenes going on as you walk around. And I think that's really neat. And I was like, I hope this continues through the rest of the game. It doesn't. If Final Fantasy VIII was just a bunch of missions you had to do, right? Maybe one overarching story, actively rebelling against the seeds or something, but you have to keep doing these little missions and stuff because that's your job. That'd be really cool. But it's not where it goes, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, so far I've been really mixed about this game. And there's times where it just clips along and you're like, oh, this is really enjoyable. And then there's times where I feel it's just dragging its heels.
Yes.
And I played a little bit of Disc 2, and so far it's very drag your heels and grinding to a point where it's this is literally forced. But I understand why they did it, but it's also this is just at padded length, that if you didn't have 3 times speed, I would be So bored.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Other notes just before we kind of move on. Irvin, I didn't really like him when we met him. He kind of seemed like a pompous jerk, and then he turns out to be kind of a douche and a coward. So I was like, why are you with my team? Get out of here. Never play with him if I can help it. Not a fan.
Yeah. Well, also, like, and I don't know how old he is, but he makes a pass at all the girls, and, like, all the girls are no older. Like, everybody's 18 or younger.
I think everyone in this game is, like, let's say 17, 18.
Fair enough. Yeah. Fair enough. But still, it's just like, everybody else is just like, dude, don't hit on me right now. It's like, what are you doing hitting on me right now?
Yeah.
And then when everybody calls him on it, he's like, ugh, yeah, whatever. And just, like, wanders off. And you're like, this guy's really an asshole.
Yeah. I did, however, like the sorceress. So the president has this thing and says, here's my new partner, the sorceress. Isn't she great? And the sorceress literally just straight up kills him, which is an elected position, by the way. President isn't just like, you're born president. You get elected into that position. So she kills him and basically calls everyone an asshat, and you're going to worship her. And then she has this big parade, and everyone's like having a good time and partying.
Yeah. Actually, when the president dies, everybody just, like, does not react and continues cheering and be like, yeah, murdered that jerk. You're just like, wow, that guy was either really hated or, like, everybody was totally in on the plan minus the president. And it's like, psst, by the way, we're all showing up to this parade. It's like, there's this new chick in town, the sorceress. She's totally going to murder the president. It's going to have a sick parade afterwards. We're all going to get drunk. It's going to be sweet. It's like,
I guess.
Because nobody seemed to be phased at all. Everybody was just like, cool, back onto it.
I guess. I mean, I suppose if it's like a war economy town, they're like, hey, you know what? The more money we make, the more guns I can sell from my gun factory, so I'm all for this. Let's keep the conflict going. This sounds great. And he's like, my wife makes armor that you can infuse with magic, so this is actually great for our family. Let's get fucked up.
And my children, they make ammo. So we're all doing good.
There you go. All right, so that is where we end in Disc 1. What happens to our tragic hero? Will we ever find out? Yes, because I definitely played Disc 2. So maybe I'll just talk about it. I don't care if Tyson comes. If Tyson quits, this is it. Tyson quits the podcast. Part 2 of Final Fantasy
8 just broke me. It was like, well, no, I couldn't emotionally keep doing this.
Like, Tyson signed up for this. He's like, hey, I definitely want to play this game. And I said, okay. And then he just ends up quitting.
I bought this game, and this would be one of those games that would sit in my library of, like, I'm never playing this. But it's like, we're finally going to do it. Let's do it. We got our way this far, so.
Fight through Disc 2, it sucks. But, like, towards the end, you're going to be like, what the fuck is going on? And it is just absolutely bonkers. You'll enjoy it, so.
Should be a good time.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, so let's talk about, before we end, I guess we're talking about world building. So I wanted to critically analyze and tear this game apart a little bit. So in order to build a fantasy world, the creators have to follow certain criteria to help capture the audience imagination. Of course, naturally, right? There are set in stone rules, and some fan bases love certain IPs, but to reach the mass majority, the author should follow some rules. All right, so we need a world conflict, okay? So we should easily understand why the protagonists have a conflict with the world they live in, right? That's storytelling right there. It's man versus something. So in Star Wars, it's stop the Empire. In Harry Potter, it's learn magic, stop Voldemort. Game of Thrones, it's stop the Lannisters, White Walkers, free the slaves, right? Like, there's so many things. In 7, we see the ultimate, like, right away we're like, oh, Shinra's the bad guys, and oh, Sephiroth. And Final Fantasy 8's like, you go to high school and you do random missions, and I suppose you're supposed to stop the Empress or the Sorceress, but, you know, there's, like, weird governments of the world. We're not really sure, like, are we independent? We're not sure how that works. So off to a good start, right?
Yeah. It's completely lacking of conflict. It breaks. I can't see why you'd want to set it up this way, because you'd want it a little bit more open-ended. But it's like, no. You need to establish some sort of semblance of conflict.
All right.
Like like Final Fantasy 7 drops you into it. Yeah. Good to go.
100%. You know exactly. Blow up these power plants. That's what we're doing. You're like, okay, cool. All right. So how about the villains and antagonists? That's important, right? So we need good villains. So villains should be easily identifiable and should be more than they appear. Strong, or have no apparent, or they should appear strong and have no apparent weaknesses. Their goals should be made clear as well. All right. So, you know, Star Wars, we get stop the rebels, use the Death Star, and Vader is just one of the greatest villains of all time, right? Like, he's strong, he's powerful, he has a magic sword. What more could you ask for?
Yep. And the Emperor is also, like, no slouch.
Yeah, and then in Harry Potter, we get, to bring Voldemort back, to seize control of the wizarding world, and just, or control of the world for wizards, right? Oh, okay. Game of Thrones, we're trying to sit on the Iron Throne. Okay, that's it. People walk around it, touch it. In 7, it's steal Mako from the planet to make money. So capitalism. And then seek revenge against the world/cloud and Sephiroth. Cool, great. Final Fantasy VIII, we're like, was her plan to take over the government?
Are we the bad guys?
All right, awesome. We're doing really well. Like when we get to that final point, we're really nailing it. Good job, Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII. How about supporting cast, right? So a colorful cast of characters helps bring the audience their choice of surrogates. It can help reach greater audiences depending on who these characters are and how they interact, right? So in Star Wars, you get some of the best ever, right? You get Han Solo, you get Chewie, R2-D2, Obi-Wan, right? Princess Leia. Everyone should be able to find their favorite. In the prequels, you get. There isn't really a protagonist in episode 1, so Anakin in the second one, minus the time he kills the Sand People, and then
Obi-Wan?
There's really no one in the other one. Yeah, like is Obi-Wan, I guess.
Is Qui-Gon?
Let's not talk about the sequels. All right. Okay, so Harry Potter, you get Ron, Hermione, Ginny, Hagrid, Dumbledore, Sirius. Like there's someone you can latch on to, and you're like, oh, that guy's cool. And Game of 7 is kind of tricky. Right, because
Game of Thrones.
Sorry, what did I say?
Game of 7.
Game of 7. Game of Thrones. It's tricky because you get Dany, Jon Snow, Tyrion, and everyone else is kind of a side character. So
everyone who isn't your favorite.
Pretty much everyone is a supporting cast in that one. Final Fantasy VII, we get the innocence of Aerith, the bad-assness of Barrett or Tifa, the mystery of Red 13. There's a little something. You're like, oh, that's kind of cool. In Final Fantasy VIII, we get Zell, he punches, or Selphie has cute hair. Irving is kind of a loser. Quittis I kind of like. I think she's interesting. She's actually kind of a standout as a character in my mind, right? She's kind of a top student, becomes an instructor too young, lacks real-world experience, and is now experiencing failure for the first time in her life. That's kind of neat, but not great.
Yeah, and Cypher's a jerk.
I suppose, yeah. All right, so then finally, heroes. This is the most important part. If your protagonist isn't interesting, no one will want to follow along with you, right? So Star Wars, Luke is the everyman. He discovers he has this magical power. It's great. Harry is a likable kid who learns he's Jesus. That's, who doesn't love Jesus, right? Jon Snow is born to be king. Dany has a claim. Tyrion is likable since he has to overcome his disability with his mind, right? Cloud is shown to be mysterious. He's unstable. He's a hero who overcomes his internal struggles in time, and we learn to love him. And Squall, he feels things.
Or does he? I don't care.
No one cares.
I don't even think Squall cares, and that's the problem.
Yeah.
Is he's like, they spent more time designing how he looks than how he should act.
Yeah, that's not great. So, flaws. A lot of flaws. Not great. Right? Not great. But it's there. That was just me trying to show that narrative-wise, it's not great. Again, it goes kooky bananas, and I'm saying it doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be as good as it is. It's not great, but it's kind of fun because how crazy it is. So that's it. So you have to keep playing this game. I don't want to, but I'm already done the next part, so I'll just catch up and wrap up the game, I guess, at this point. So
yeah, well, I'll probably just keep playing it and just seeing how far I can get.
Yeah,
because I'm this far now. Yeah. Might as well keep going. I find in these games, especially Square Enix games, each disc gets progressively shorter.
Yeah.
So I'll probably end up just clipping through it really, really well.
Don't worry about getting items if you miss a Guardian function or a card or something that's important. You can get everything in the last disc before you finish the game. So not important whatsoever.
Cool. I was kind of worried about that at the beginning, just because you're kind of limited in your Guardian forces and your characters. But at this point, I just junction exchange. Who cares?
Yeah.
And I'm not overthinking it. It's this game's broke me mentally, just when it comes to battling. Because as for just wrapping up thoughts, it's narrative wise, it's super ambitious, and I like that it tries to go. And build this big story where you're always going through scenes and it feels very cinematic, but then it completely just drops the ball on being a game that's fun to play.
Yeah.
So it's
Oh,
it's an interesting experience.
We'll talk about more when we get into the development details. Is the first thing. So in a month's time, we're back. We'll be looking at this game again. We're dropping into the development details. So much is explained about what happened with this game and like why this game is the way it is. So bear with us. In a month, it'll kind of make sense. And again, Tyson will have that kind of like that epitome. Is like, this game is what the fuck? Like, he'll probably beat the game before we record next. Because once you kind of get past that weird plot hole in disc 2, you're gonna be like, I got to see this through now. Like, I'm in for the ride. So.
Yep. We'll get there.
All right. So if you buy it and play it with us, congratulations. You gave Square Enix some money. But if you're just listening to us and you're like, these guys don't seem like they're having a good time, we're not. So I'm glad that came across.
Yeah, I'm glad an authentic experience is genuinely being converted to audio.
Yeah,
because it's a slog at some point.
It's a struggle.
We're getting there. Yeah. I'm looking forward to 9 because I know this is one of the weaker ones, and we just have to get through it.
That's it. Cool. All right. So with that, I think we're going to say goodbye for now. We'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. We're back with a numbered show and go from there. So bye, guys.
Yep. Bye.